In this course, we're going to build two fantasy game props in Blender, a glowing potion bottle and a wooden treasure chest. And along the way, we're going to use Claude to help us plan, model, and troubleshoot every step of the way. By the end, you'll have a scene that looks like this, and more importantly, you'll understand exactly how it was made. Let's start from the very beginning. This is what Blender looks like when you first open it. It can feel like a lot all at once, so let's just get familiar with where things live. We don't need to understand everything right now. There's a lot to learn in Blender, so the best approach is to figure out what you want to do, and then learn the tool that can make that happen. Here are the basics so we can get around comfortably. The big area in the middle is the 3D viewport. That's where all the modeling happens. Almost everything we do will be in here. Over on the right, you've got two panels. The top one is the outliner. It lists every object in your scene. The bottom one is the properties panel. This is where you change settings for your objects, materials, modifiers, and the scene itself. Along the top is the header menu, file, edit, render, and so on. And at the very bottom is the timeline. That's for working with animation and keyframes. That's it. 4 main areas. You'll get used to where everything is pretty quickly. Now let's talk about getting around in the viewport, because this is the thing that trips people up most at the start. To orbit, rotate the view around, hold the middle mouse button and drag. If you're on a trackpad, you can use 2 fingers to pan. Slide the view left, right, up, down, hold shift and middle mouse button and drag. To zoom, scroll the mouse wheel or pinch on a trackpad. Go ahead and try those 3: orbit, pan, zoom. Spend a minute just moving around. It feels awkward at first, and then suddenly clicks. A few useful shortcuts for jumping to a specific view. Numpad 1 snaps you to the front, Numpad 3 is the right side, Numpad 7 is the top, and Numpad 0 is the camera view, what the camera actually sees. If you don't have a numpad, go to Edit menu at the top, then Preferences, then Input, and check Emulate Numpad. That maps those views to the number keys along the top of your keyboard. There's also a small navigation gizmo built right into the top right corner of the viewport. You'll see 3 colored axis circles, red, green, and blue. Hover over any of them and it shows you the shortcut to snap to that view. The red axis is front, numpad 1. Green is the right side, numpad 3. Blue is the top, numpad 7. You can also just click them directly to jump to that view without using the keyboard at all. And just below the gizmo, there are a few small icon buttons, one to zoom to fit your selection in view, one to toggle between perspective and orthographic mode, and one to jump to camera view. Worth knowing they're there. The default Blender scene starts with 3 things: a cube, a camera, and a light. The cube is just a placeholder. We'll delete it in a moment and start fresh. The camera is what Blender uses to render your final image. Think of it like the camera on a film set. It defines the angle and framing of the shot. The light is your main light source. By default, it's a point light, kind of like a bare light bulb hanging in the middle of the scene. You can click on any of these in the viewport or in the outliner to select them. Selected objects get an orange highlight. Before we do anything else, let's save the file and get the project folder set up. Go to File, then Save As, navigate to wherever you're keeping your project files, and name it something like Fantasy Props 01. Get into the habit of saving often. Blender has autosave, but there's no substitute for Ctrl-ES every few minutes. Okay, before we touch a single vertex, I want to show you something that makes a big difference, especially for beginners. One of the most common reasons people get stuck in Blender isn't that they don't know the tools. It's that they sit down with a vague idea of what they want to make and no clear picture of where to start. And then halfway through, they realize they built things in the wrong order and have to go back. So we're going to use Claude to help us plan both props before we start. Not to do the modeling for us, but to give us a clear task list. We can work through one step at a time. Let me show you what I mean. I'm going to describe both props and ask Claude to break each one down into ordered modeling tasks. Something like, I want to model a stylized fantasy potion bottle and a closed wooden treasure chest for a beginner Blender course. Beginner friendly but visually appealing. Break each into ordered tasks and tell me what skills I'll need. That's the whole prompt. Short and specific, give Claude enough context and it does the rest. So here's what Claude came back with. Take a second to read through it. The bottle is 9 steps. The chest is 11. That sounds like a lot until you actually look at what those steps are. Add a cylinder, add a loop cut, scale a ring outward to get the belly shape. Each one is a single action that takes maybe 30 seconds once you know where the button is. A couple of things worth pointing out. For the bottle, the shape comes from loop cuts. You add horizontal rings around the cylinder and scale them out or in to push and pull the silhouette. Then a subdivision surface modifier smooths everything out. That's the core technique for this whole first project. For the chest, one of the key steps is separating the lid from the body. You model it as one piece first, then split it in half. That's a clean way to make sure the lid fits perfectly. And the metal bands and lock are separate objects sitting on top of the wood, not cut into it, so you get 2 different materials without any complicated geometry. And this is something I really like about this plan. Claude specifically noted that neither prop needs UV unwrapping. For beginners, that's huge, because UV unwrapping is one of those things that can completely derail a first project. We're using procedural materials the whole way through, so we skip it entirely. This is the kind of thing you can do before any project. Describe what you want to build, ask Claude to break it down, and you've got a checklist. 2 minutes of planning, and you always know exactly what you're working on next. Let's clean up the scene. Click on the default cube to select it. You'll see it get the orange highlight. Press X to bring up the delete menu, then hit delete to confirm. And then Ctrl+S to save. Alright, scene is clean, plan is in place. Let's go build a potion bottle. In the next segment, we're going to add our first primitive. Get comfortable with moving, rotating, and scaling objects, and block out the rough shape of the bottle body. See you there. Welcome back. In the last segment, we toured the interface, learned to navigate the viewport, and used Claude to put together a full modeling plan for both props. That plan lives in the project folder. We're going to follow it task by task. Today is the first actual modeling segment. We're starting on task 1 from Claude's potion bottle list. Add a cylinder with 16 vertices and delete the top and bottom cap faces. And we're going to do it twice, once manually and once through MCP, so you can see exactly what each approach looks like and what the result is. Let's start with the manual approach. Press Shift-A anywhere in the viewport to open the Add menu. Go to Mesh, then click Cylinder. It drops straight into the center of the scene. Now, before you click anywhere else, look at the bottom left corner of the viewport. A small panel appeared that says Add Cylinder. Click it to expand it. This is the operator panel. It shows up immediately after you add an object, and it disappears the moment you start doing anything else. It's your one chance to configure the object before its settings lock in. If you miss it, there's no way to go back and change these values without deleting and re-adding the object. The setting we care about here is vertices. The default is 32, change it to 16. Claude's plan recommended 12 to 16, and 16 gives us a little more geometry to work with when we start shaping the neck and lip of the bottle later, without cluttering the mesh with more faces than we need. Once you've set it to 16, click somewhere in the viewport to commit. The cylinder is in 16 vertices, caps filled top and bottom. Before we do anything else, let's name this object. Look at the outliner on the top right. You'll see the cylinder listed there, probably just called cylinder. Double-click that name and type bottle manual, then hit enter. We're going to have 2 of these cylinders in a moment, and if they're both just called cylinder, the scene gets confusing fast. Naming things as you go is one of the most valuable habits you can build in Blender. It takes 2 seconds, and it makes everything else easier. Now let's have Claude set up its own version through MCP. Watch what happens in the Blender viewport. Bottle Mac is now in the scene, sitting right next to Bottle Manual. Both have 16 vertices, both have their caps filled. The outliner shows both objects clearly named. This is what we mean when we talk about working with Claude and MCP. It's not magic, it's just a different way to give Blender instructions. You describe what you wanted in plain language, and Blender did it. The result is the same as what you just did with Shift-A in the operator panel. Before we start transforming these, let's talk about the mode we're in. The drop-down at the top left of the viewport says Object Mode. You'll be switching between Object Mode and Edit Mode constantly, and understanding what each one is for makes a big difference. Object mode is where you work with objects as whole units, moving, rotating, scaling, selecting. You're not changing their shape. You're positioning them in the scene relative to everything else. Edit mode is where you go inside an object and work with the actual geometry. Vertices, edges, faces, you can push and pull the actual shape. That's where modeling happens. The shortcut to switch between them is Tab. We'll use it in a few minutes. For now, everything we do is in object mode. Let's scale bottle manual up to flask proportions. Click on it to make sure it's selected. It gets an orange outline when selected. The 3 transform shortcuts you'll use more than any others in Blender are G, R, and S. Grab, rotate, and scale. Press the key to start the transform. And Blender waits for you to define what to do next. Press S to start scaling. The cylinder scales from its center as you move the mouse, but scaling in all directions at once is usually not what you want. Press Z right after S to lock the transform to the vertical axis. Now the cylinder can only grow or shrink in height. Its width stays fixed. Type 2 and press Enter to scale it to exactly twice its current height. S, Z, 2, Enter. That's the full pattern. Action key, axis lock, value, Enter. It works the same way for G and R. GZ1, Enter moves the object 1 unit up. RX45 Enter rotates it 45 degrees around X. Once you know that pattern, transforms become very fast. If you scale in the wrong direction or put in the wrong number, Ctrl Z steps back 1 action. You can press it repeatedly to keep undoing. One more useful thing, press N to open the item panel on the right side of the viewport. It shows you the exact position, rotation, and scale values for whatever selected. With bottle manual selected, you can see the Z scale is already showing too. That's exactly what we just applied. If you wanted to fine-tune the height, you could click that field and type a new number directly without going back to the SC shortcut. For now the proportions look right, so we'll leave it as is. Press N again to close the panel. Now let's have Claude do the same thing to bottle MCP. Both cylinders are now at flask proportions. You can see them side by side, bottle manual on the left from the manual scale, bottle make CP on the right from Claude. Same shape, arrived at 2 different ways. Now for the last part of task 1, deleting the top and bottom caps. We need to go into edit mode for this. Make sure bottle manual is selected, then press Tab. The cylinder changes, it turns orange. The geometry becomes visible, every vertex, edge, and face. This is the inside of the object. Edit mode is where you change the actual shape of the mesh. There are 3 selection modes in edit mode, and it's worth knowing all 3. Press 1 to select vertices, the individual points where edges meet. Press 2 for edges, the lines running between those points. Press 3 for faces, the flat surfaces enclosed by edges. You can also switch between them using the 3 small icons at the top left of the viewport. They look like a dot, a line, and a square. We need to work with faces. Press 3 on the number row to switch to face select mode. You can see the face selection icons appear at the top of the viewport too. Hover over the top circular cap and click it to select it. It highlights. Hold Shift and click the bottom cap to add it to the selection as well. Both caps are now highlighted. Press X to bring up the delete menu. Choose faces. The caps disappear. What's left is just the open tube, a cylinder with nothing at the top or bottom. That's exactly what we want. A potion bottle is hollow, and leaving those cap faces in would cause shading problems later when we add the subdivision surface modifier. The modifier would try to smooth the edges of those caps and create pinching artifacts right at the rim of the bottle. Getting rid of them now prevents that entirely. Press Tab to go back to object mode. Now Claude's turn. Let's have MCP do the same thing to bottle MCP. Both objects now have their caps deleted. You can see both in the viewport, open tubes matching proportions, the same result from 2 completely different workflows. If you compare them in the outliner, both are there, both named, both clean. That's what a healthy Blender scene looks like from the start. Go ahead and save, Ctrl S. Make a habit of saving at the end of every work session. So that's task 1 done, and done twice. 2 cylinders in the scene, 1 built manually, and 1 through MCP, both set up identically and ready for the next step. In segment 3, we're going to move to a single working object. We'll pick one and start shaping it into an actual bottle. Loop cuts, edge scaling, pulling the neck in. That's where the shape really starts to come together, and it's going to be a lot more satisfying than a tube. Thanks for watching. Take care.